The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES Intrepid. Captain Eleanor Wright stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the alien ship approach. It was beautiful in a strange way, a crystalline structure that seemed to flow rather than move through space, catching and reflecting light from the distant sun. "They're hailing us again, Captain," said Samantha Kelly, the communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly over her screen. "Standard diplomatic frequency." Eleanor nodded. "Put them through." The main view screen flickered and revealed a being that looked like a collection of translucent crystals floating in formation. The universal translator converted the patterns of light pulsing within the crystals into words. "Greetings, Captain Wright of Earth vessel. We are approaching your position for the agreed observation exchange. Please confirm your readiness." Eleanor stepped forward. "This is Captain Wright. We confirm and welcome you to Earth Space, Representative Tolax. Our systems are ready for your standard diplomatic scan as agreed in the contact protocols." It had been only 6 months since the Galactic Conclave had discovered Earth. Humans were still adjusting to the idea that they weren't alone in the universe. The Vexthari were one of the oldest species in the Conclave, acting as guides for newly discovered civilizations. This meeting was supposed to be routine, a simple exchange of basic military information as part of Earth joining the galactic community. "Acknowledged, Captain. Beginning standard scan now. Lieutenant William." Harris watched his monitor closely. As the tactical officer, he didn't trust these aliens yet. Something about their perfect symmetrical forms made him uneasy. "Captain, I'm detecting their scan beam now. It's... Wait a minute." Eleanor turned. "Problem, Lieutenant?" Harris frowned. "They're not using the agreed Class 2 surface scan. This is a Class 4 penetrative scan. It's going right through our hull." "Is it dangerous to the crew?" Eleanor asked sharply. "No, ma'am, but it's reading everything. Reactor core layout, weapons, systems, life support redundancy, crew quarters positioning. This goes well beyond what they were permitted." Eleanor turned back to the screen. "Representative Tolax, you are exceeding the agreed scan parameters. Please return to the diplomatic protocol immediately." The alien's crystals flickered rapidly, patterns of light moving faster now. "Apologies, Captain Wright. It is merely a calibration error. We will adjust." But the scan didn't change. If anything, it intensified. "They're lying," Harris said quietly. "The scan is focusing on our tactical systems now." Eleanor's face hardened. "Security alert. Shields at 50%, passive mode only. We don't want to appear hostile, but I want some protection in place." Around the bridge, her crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for first contact scenarios, but no one had expected the aliens to break protocol so quickly. "The scan is focusing on our reactor core now," Harris reported. "Wait, they're particularly interested in the positioning of our reactor relative to crew quarters." Eleanor frowned. "That's standard design. What's so interesting about that, Dr.?" Olivia Bennett, the ship's xenopsychologist, had been quietly observing from the side of the bridge. Now she stepped forward. "Captain, it might be their different evolution. The Vexthari are a hive mind species. They may not understand why we place critical systems near human crew." On the view screen, the alien's crystalline form suddenly shifted, the lights inside pulsing rapidly in patterns that, even without translation, looked alarmed. "Captain Wright." The alien's voice now had a different tone. "Your vessel design, it is most unusual. You place your central power core adjacent to your living spaces?" Eleanor nodded slowly. "That's correct. It's the most efficient use of space and allows for quick response in emergencies." There was a pause before the alien responded. "And your defensive systems, they appear to adapt and learn during combat?" "Yes," Harris answered before Eleanor could stop him. "All our combat systems use neural algorithms to improve performance during engagements." The lights within the alien flashed rapidly. "And the positioning of your command center? It is at the front of your vessel? Most exposed to attack?" Eleanor was becoming frustrated. "Representative Tolax, these questions go beyond diplomatic exchange protocols. I must ask you to return to the agreed parameters or we will terminate the scan." Instead of responding, the alien ship suddenly backed away from the Intrepid. Its beautiful crystal structure seemed to quiver, catching the sunlight in new patterns that looked almost like ripples of panic. "Captain," Kelly called out, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies. It's just screaming." The alien vessel's engines flared bright blue, and it turned away from Earth with surprising speed. "They're running," Harris said, sounding confused. "Full emergency acceleration. They're leaving the solar system." Eleanor stared at the retreating ship. "Kelly, hail them." "I'm trying, Captain. They're not responding, but they're still broadcasting that sound on all frequencies. It's like they're warning others to stay away." Admiral George Blackwood's face appeared on a side screen. He was calling from Earth Command. "Captain Wright, what the hell just happened?" The conclave representatives at the diplomatic center just started making alarm sounds and demanding an emergency meeting. Eleanor shook her head. "I don't know, sir. They performed an unauthorized deep scan of our ship, asked some strange questions about our design layout, and then fled." Bennett stepped forward again. "Admiral Captain, I think I might understand. The Vexthari evolved without predators and function as a collective consciousness. Their ship designs always protect the whole rather than sacrificing parts." She pulled up a schematic comparison on a nearby screen. "Look at the Vexthari ship design. Every critical system has triple redundancy and is placed at the center of the vessel. No single part is ever risked." She switched to the Intrepid's schematic. "Now look at ours. Reactor near crew quarters. Bridge at the front exposed. Weapon systems that learn and adapt independently. To them, this might look insane. A ship designed to keep fighting even at terrible cost." Admiral Blackwood's expression darkened. "You're saying they ran away because they think we're crazy?" "Worse," Bennett replied. "I think they ran because they recognize something they've never seen before. A species whose entire design philosophy includes the concept of sacrifice. A species that evolved alongside death and has built that understanding into its ships." Eleanor looked back to the view screen where the alien ship was now just a distant point of light. "They didn't know what they were looking for," she said quietly, "but they found something that terrified them." "And what was that, Captain?" Blackwood asked. Eleanor met his eyes through the screen. "Humanity, Admiral. They found humanity." Dr. Olivia Bennett stood before a room full of serious faces. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and Admiral Blackwood all watched her with intense focus. 3 days had passed since the Vexithari ship fled Earth space, and the diplomatic fallout was growing worse by the hour. "So you're telling us they're afraid of our ships?" General Patricia Ford asked. She was a tall woman with gray hair cut short and practical. "I thought they were centuries ahead of us in technology." "They are," Olivia replied. She touched her tablet, and the large screen behind her showed 2 ship designs side by side. "But it's not about technology. It's about psychology." She pointed to the alien ship design. "The Vexthari are a hive mind species. They evolved without natural predators on their home world. Their entire concept of survival is based on protecting the whole group. Look at their ship layout. Every critical system is in the center, protected by layers of less important systems. No single part is ever placed at risk." She switched to the human ship design. "Now look at ours. Bridge at the front, exposed. Reactor near crew quarters for efficiency. Weapon systems that operate independently. And most importantly, our neural combat systems that can adapt during battle." Chief Engineer Alan Rodriguez leaned forward. "I don't understand the problem. Our designs are practical and efficient." "To us, yes," Olivia agreed. "But to them, our ships look like they were designed by madmen. We built ships that place individual crew members at risk to protect the mission. We created systems that can operate even when cut off from central command. We designed our vessels to keep fighting even when taking catastrophic damage." The room was silent as her words sank in. In their society, they call it death thinking, tactical planning that includes sacrifice as a viable strategy. It doesn't exist in their culture. Not just the Vexthari, but most species in the conclave. Admiral Blackwood ran a hand over his face. Are you saying they're terrified of us because we accept that people might die in battle? Olivia nodded. Exactly. And more than that, they're terrified because we've built that acceptance into our technology, our ships, our military doctrine. To them it seems like insanity. But that's just being human, Rodriguez said. Yes, Olivia replied softly. That's the point. Across the room, a screen lit up. Incoming transmission from the conclave diplomatic vessel, announced a communications officer. Admiral Blackwood straightened his uniform. Put them through. The screen showed a different crystalline being, larger than the one Captain Wright had encountered. The translator converted its light patterns into words. Admiral Blackwood, I am Elder Zexavi of the Vexthari High Council. We must discuss the situation. Blackwood nodded respectfully. Elder, we're concerned about the abrupt departure of your observation vessel. Was there a problem with our exchange protocols? The alien's crystals pulsed rapidly. The problem, Admiral, is with your species. Our observers were deeply disturbed by what they discovered during their scan of your vessel. They performed an unauthorized deep scan, Blackwood countered. That was not part of our agreement. A necessary precaution, as it turns out. The Elder's tone was cold. Your warship design reveals disturbing truths about human psychology. You place your command center in the most vulnerable position. You position life support and power systems adjacent to each other. Your weapons continue functioning when separated from central control. Blackwood glanced at Olivia, who nodded, slightly. These are standard design choices that have served us well, he said carefully. They are the design choices of predators, the Elder replied. Of a species that evolved alongside death and has incorporated it into their thinking. The Conclave has encountered similar species before. They did not join our community. They were contained. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Are you threatening Earth, Elder? Blackwood asked quietly. Merely stating facts, Admiral. The Grand Assembly will convene in 7 of your days to discuss the human question. You may send 1 representative. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Well, General Ford said into the silence. That went poorly. Across the solar system, on the edge of Jupiter's orbit, another meeting was taking place. The Vexthari diplomatic vessel had rendezvoused with a much smaller ship. This one belonged to the Preltan, a bird-like species that had been members of the Conclave for centuries but were considered a minor power. Inside the Preltan vessel, Captain Eleanor Wright sat across from Ambassador Curlett. The small alien had feathers in shades of blue and green, and bright eyes that studied Eleanor with obvious curiosity. Your ship caused quite the commotion, Curlett said. His translator gave him a musical voice. The Vexthari haven't been this agitated in 1,000 years. It wasn't our intention, Eleanor replied. We were following the agreed protocols. The Preltan made a chirping sound that might have been laughter. Oh, I'm sure you were, but the Vexthari weren't. They were looking for something specific, something they feared they might find. And what was that? A predator species with advanced technology. Curlett folded his delicate hands. There are legends in the Conclave about such species. The official history says they were too violent to join galactic society and were peacefully contained. The unofficial history, he trailed off. What does the unofficial history say? Eleanor asked. That they were systematically destroyed or quarantined because they threatened the dominance of the elder species. The Preltan's eyes narrowed. The Vexthari have ruled the Conclave for 50,000 years. They determine which species may develop certain technologies. They decide which trade routes are open. They control which worlds may be settled. Why are you telling me this? Eleanor asked. Won't you get in trouble? Curlett made that chirping sound again. My people have been waiting a very long time for a counterbalance to emerge in the Conclave. We monitored your world's transmissions for decades before the official contact. We've seen your stories, your myths, your history. He leaned closer. What the Vexthari fear, we admire. Your capacity to face death, to sacrifice for your people, to adapt and overcome. These are qualities my ancestors once had, before centuries of Vexthari influence bred them out of us. What are you suggesting? Eleanor asked carefully. I'm suggesting, Captain Wright, that humanity is about to face a choice. The Vexthari will offer you limited membership in the Conclave, with severe restrictions on your technology and expansion, or they will declare you a threat to galactic peace. Those don't sound like good options. There is a third path, Kirlet said, but it requires something rare in this galaxy: courage and allies. He extended a hand in what was clearly a practiced human gesture. We've been waiting for you for a very long time, Captain. There are 16 species in the Conclave who would stand with humanity against the old order, if you're willing to stand with us. Eleanor looked at the small alien's hand, then back to his determined eyes. She reached out and took it. Tell me more about this third path, she said. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Conclave was enormous. Ambassador Susan Rivera felt very small as she walked down the central aisle. The room was shaped like a giant bowl, with raised platforms surrounding a speaking floor. Each platform held representatives from different species. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien, floating gas clouds, crystalline structures, or strange combinations of tentacles and eyes. Susan wore her dress uniform, dark blue with gold trim. She had been chosen as Earth's representative after 3 days of intense debate. As a career diplomat with experience in difficult negotiations, she was humanity's best hope. The Vexthari elder Zexavi floated at the center of the highest platform. His crystalline body sparkled under the bright lights. The assembly recognizes Earth Representative Susan Rivera, announced a mechanical voice. You may approach the speaking floor. Susan walked to the center of the room. 87 different species watched her. Most had never seen a human before. Honored representatives of the Conclave, she began. Her voice was calm and clear. I come before you today to address concerns about Earth's admission to your community. We are grateful for the opportunity to join such a diverse gathering of civilizations. The Vexthari elder's crystals pulsed with light. Ambassador Rivera, serious questions have been raised about human compatibility with Conclave values. Our observers detected disturbing patterns in your military technology and psychology. Susan nodded. I understand your concerns, but I believe they come from a misunderstanding of human nature. Is it a misunderstanding that your warships are designed to continue fighting, even when fatally damaged? The elder's translated voice sounded harsh. Is it a misunderstanding that your crew are positioned in ways that risk their individual lives? Is it a misunderstanding that your weapon systems can function independently of central control? Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Susan could feel the tension growing. What you call disturbing, we call courage, she replied. Yes, we design our ships to complete their missions even at great cost. Yes, we place duty above personal safety. These are not signs of aggression. They are signs of commitment to protecting what we value. A different alien rose on one of the platforms. This one looked like a tall insect with compound eyes. The humans speak of courage, it said, but the Conclave has flourished for 50,000 years by avoiding unnecessary risk. Predator psychology is incompatible with our peaceful community. Susan took a deep breath. Dr. Bennett had briefed her about this argument. With respect, is it truly peace when some species dominate others? Is it truly harmony when voices like those of the Preltan are barely heard in this assembly? That caused an uproar. The Vexthari elder's crystals flashed rapidly. You overstep, Ambassador, he warned. The internal politics of the Conclave are not your concern. They are if you're asking us to join, Susan countered. Humanity will not accept second-class status. We will not allow our technology or expansion to be limited beyond reasonable safety measures. Then perhaps humanity is not ready to join the Conclave, the elder said coldly. Before Susan could respond, a small blue-feathered figure stood on one of the lower platforms. The Preltan delegation requests speaking rights, announced the mechanical voice. The elder's crystals dimmed slightly. Granted. Ambassador Kurlet's musical voice filled the chamber. For 3,000 years, my people have served the Conclave. In that time, we have watched as species after species was molded to fit the elder race's definition of peaceful. What the Vexthari fear in humans is what they have spent millennia breeding out of the rest of us: the willingness to stand against overwhelming power. The assembly erupted into chaos. Different species were standing, their translated voices overlapping. Susan stood quietly at the center, watching as alliances and divisions became clear. The Vexthari elder raised his crystalline arms, and the hall gradually fell silent. "This debate serves no purpose," he said. "The facts are clear. Human psychology and technology represent a potential destabilizing force in the Conclave. We propose the following. Earth may join as a provisional member. Human ships will be redesigned according to Conclave safety standards. Human expansion will be limited to 3 additional star systems. Human military forces will be placed under Conclave oversight." Susan didn't hesitate. Earth rejects these terms. The Elder's crystals pulsed slowly. "Then we have no agreement." "Actually," Susan said, "I have a counter-proposal." She touched a small device on her wrist, and the giant holographic display above the speaking floor activated. It showed a map of the galaxy, with Conclave territory highlighted. "Our scientists have analyzed the publicly available Conclave star charts," she said. "There are 12 regions along your borders that have experienced pirate attacks in the past decade. There are 15 trade routes that require constant patrolling." She highlighted them on the map. "And there are at least 3 non-Conclave species that have threatened member worlds." The assembly was completely silent now. "Humanity proposes a different arrangement," Susan continued. "We will serve as a guardian species for the Conclave. Our ships, with their troubling but effective design, will patrol your borders and protect your trade routes. In exchange, we ask for unrestricted development rights in 20 star systems and full membership status." "The insect-like aliens," voice rose again. "This is unprecedented. No single species has ever been granted such authority. No single species has ever been willing to take such risks for the greater community," Susan replied. "That's what you fear about us, isn't it? Our willingness to face danger. Well, we're offering to face it for you." Across the room, more than a dozen representatives from smaller species stood in silent support. The Preltan delegation, the turtle-like Gorn, the gaseous myth, all species that had long existed under the shadow of the elder races. Meanwhile, in a small room far from the assembly hall, Commander Kevin Martinez of Earth Intelligence sat with representatives from these same species. They watched the assembly proceedings on a screen. "Your ambassador is very bold," said the Gorn representative, his leathery face unreadable. Kevin nodded. "Humanity has always been bold. Sometimes it gets us in trouble." "The Vexthari will never agree to this proposal," said the myth representative, her gas cloud body shifting anxiously. "They don't need to," Kevin replied. "We just need enough support from the assembly to force a compromise." The Preltan diplomat chirped softly. "And if they refuse to compromise?" Kevin's face hardened. "Then Earth stands alone. But I don't think we will." Back in the assembly hall, the Vexthari elder was in intense discussion with other elder species. The hall hummed with activity as different delegations conferred hastily. Susan waited patiently. Dr. Bennett had told her that the Vexthari hated unpredictability more than anything. She had just introduced the biggest variable possible, a species that embraced risk offering to take on the dangers the Conclave feared to face. Finally, the elder turned back to her. "The assembly requires time to consider this unusual proposal. We will recess for 3 days." His crystal body dimmed. "But know this, Ambassador Rivera. You have changed the nature of these proceedings. Not all will thank you for it." Susan bowed slightly. "Change can be difficult, but sometimes it's necessary." As she left the speaking floor, representatives from 16 different species moved to intercept her. The small rebellion that Captain Wright and Ambassador Kirlet had started was growing. For the first time in 50,000 years, The balance of power in the conclave was shifting, and humanity was at the center of the storm. Captain Eleanor Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Intrepid once again. This time, 20 alien observer ships surrounded her vessel. After 3 days of heated debate, the conclave had reached a decision. Humanity would not be rejected, but neither would they be fully accepted yet. First, they had to prove themselves. "This is ridiculous," Lieutenant William Harris muttered at his tactical station. "They want us to fight to prove we're not dangerous?" "They want to understand us," Eleanor replied, "so let's show them who we really are." The conclave had created a combat simulation zone in Jupiter's orbit. A series of automated drones would attack the Intrepid with increasing intensity. The observers would monitor how humans responded to the threat. Navigation Officer Daniel Choi looked nervous. "Captain, are we sure this isn't a trap? What if these drones are programmed to actually destroy us?" "Ambassador Rivera has their word," Eleanor said. "And we have our orders." Admiral Blackwood's instructions had been clear. Demonstrate human capabilities without revealing all their tactical options. Be impressive, but not threatening. Show courage, but not recklessness. "Simulation begins in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Kelly from Communications. "All observer vessels have moved to safe distance." Eleanor addressed her crew. "Remember, they're watching how we respond, not just whether we win. Show them what humanity stands for." The first wave of drones appeared on their sensors. Simple. Machines moving in predictable patterns. The Intrepid's weapon systems targeted and destroyed them easily. "Too easy," Harris said. "They're testing our basic capabilities." The second wave was more complex. The drones coordinated their attacks, focusing on the Intrepid's engines. "Evasive pattern delta," Eleanor ordered. "Harris, use minimum force. Show them precision, not just power." The tactical officer nodded, targeting the drones with careful shots that disabled rather than destroyed them. On the observer vessels, the aliens watched with growing interest. The Vexithari representatives monitored every decision, every command with their crystalline senses tuned to maximum sensitivity. "They fight as individuals working together," said one Vexithari observer. "Not as a true collective." "Inefficient, yet effective," replied another. "Each human makes decisions independently when needed. They don't require constant direction." The third wave of drones was far more dangerous. They jammed the Intrepid's communications and targeted multiple systems simultaneously. "Communications down," Kelly shouted. "Working to restore. Shields at 60%, reported Chief Engineer Rodriguez over the ship's internal system. Eleanor remained calm. "Everyone remember your training. You don't need my orders to know what to do." The crew responded immediately. Without central communication, each department adapted to the threat. Engineers rerouted power. Weapons officers adjusted targeting parameters. Medical staff prepared for potential casualties. What truly shocked the alien observers wasn't the Intrepid's technology. Much of it was actually inferior to conclave standards. It was watching human crew members rush toward damaged sections rather than away from them, prioritizing collective survival over individual safety. On the tactical station, Lieutenant Natalie Rivers had programmed a response that particularly disturbed the Vexthari. She intentionally allowed damage to non-critical areas, creating the appearance of vulnerability, then used that perceived weakness to lure enemy units into an ambush. "Captain," Harris called out. "The fourth wave is targeting life support on Deck 3. Eleanor nodded. "Evacuate non-essential personnel. Rivers, execute your trap." The tactical officer smiled. "Trap set, Captain. They think our port shield generator is failing. When the drones concentrated their attack on that seemingly vulnerable section, hidden weapons batteries activated, catching them in crossfire." On the Praeltan observer ship, Ambassador Kirlet watched with growing excitement. His people's historical record spoke of a time when their own species possessed such tactical thinking, before centuries under Vexthari influence had bred it out of them. "They fight like our ancestors once did," he told his crew. "See how they accept damage to gain advantage? How they adapt instead of following fixed protocols?" The fifth and final wave was overwhelming. Dozens of drones attacked from all directions. They were faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than the previous waves. Shields failing, Rodriguez reported. Hull breach on Deck 4. Eleanor stood from her captain's chair. All power to forward shields. Divert life support from uninhabited sections. Harris, target their command units. There are too many, Joy shouted as the ship rocked from multiple impacts. No, Eleanor said firmly. There are exactly enough to show them what humans do when facing impossible odds. She activated the ship-wide communication. All hands, this is the captain. We are outmatched and outgunned, and that's exactly where humans excel. Show them what we're made of. The crew responded with remarkable efficiency. Medical teams moved with practiced speed to treat injuries. Engineers performed emergency repairs that conclave protocols would have deemed impossible under combat conditions. Weapons officers coordinated their efforts without central direction when communications were disrupted again. Most surprisingly to the observers, the humans appeared to be enjoying the challenge. They called encouragement to each other. They made jokes in the face of danger. They celebrated small victories. When a drone broke through their defenses and damaged the bridge, Eleanor didn't retreat to a safer location as conclave doctrine would demand. She helped an injured officer while continuing to direct the battle. After 20 minutes of intense combat, the simulation ended. The Intrepid had survived, though with significant damage. Victory had come not through superior technology, but through adaptability, courage, and teamwork. As the observer vessels approached for final analysis, Dr. Bennett received a coded transmission from the Preltan ship. "We have been waiting for you for a long time." Eleanor ordered all stations to stand down and looked around at her exhausted but proud crew. "Well done, everyone. I think we've shown them exactly who we are." Admiral Blackwood's face appeared on the main view screen. "Congratulations, Captain." "Right. The observers are returning to the conclave assembly with their reports. Ambassador Rivera says the vote will happen tomorrow." "How do you think it will go, sir?" Eleanor asked. The Admiral's face was serious. "Ambassador Rivera believes we've gained enough support from the smaller species, but the elder races are still deeply concerned." He paused. "Whatever happens, Captain, your crew has represented humanity with honor." After the Admiral's transmission ended, Eleanor turned to Dr. Bennett. "What do you think, Doctor? Did we convince them?" The xenopsychologist smiled slightly. "We didn't need to convince all of them, Captain, just enough to force the Vexithari to compromise." She glanced at her personal communication device. "And according to my contacts, we've done exactly that." The Intrepid began its journey back to Earth. Behind them, the observer vessels split into different directions, each carrying their reports to their governments. The future of humanity's place in the galaxy would be decided soon. But one thing was already clear. The conclave would never be the same again. 6 months after the Jupiter demonstration, Admiral George Blackwood stood at the viewport of Lunar Command. He watched as alien engineers helped install new defensive systems around Earth. The sleek conclave technology would strengthen humanity's ability to protect its home. "They're still afraid of us," he observed to Ambassador Rivera, who stood beside him. "Yes," she agreed, "but fear can breed respect when handled properly." The Galactic Conclave had finally ratified a new treaty after weeks of heated debate. Humanity was classified as a guardian species, allowed to maintain their military capabilities under oversight, ostensibly to protect the Conclave's borders from external threats. What remained unspoken was the real purpose: to maintain a balance of power within the Conclave itself. The vote had been close. The elder races, led by the Vexithari, had strongly opposed giving humans so much freedom. But the 16 smaller species had stood firm. They had lived too long under the dominance of the elder races. In humanity, they saw a chance for change. "Kariyi, first patrol fleet launches tomorrow," Blackwood said. "Captain Wright will lead the mission." Susan nodded. "The Prelatan are especially eager for human protection along their trade routes. They've suffered from pirate attacks for decades while the Conclave did little to help." "And the Vexthari? Are they accepting the new arrangement?" Grudgingly, Susan replied. They've assigned observers to all our patrol ships. Officially to coordinate efforts. Actually to watch us closely. Blackwood smiled slightly. Let them watch, it'll be educational. On the other side of the galaxy, the UES Defiant prepared for its first mission. Newly commissioned and built with a combination of human and conclave technology, it was the most advanced ship in Earth's fleet. Captain John Miller walked through the corridors inspecting final preparations. Captain on deck called Lieutenant Laura Winters as he entered the bridge. At ease, Miller said. Status report? All systems green, Winters replied. The Prelton convoy is ready to depart. 6 merchant vessels carrying medical supplies and manufacturing equipment. And our shadow? Miller asked. Winters checked her console. The Vex Thari cruiser Eternal. Harmony is maintaining position at 50,000 kilometers. They've been scanning us continuously since we arrived. Miller nodded. Let them look. Let them remember what they saw the first time. The Defiant's mission was simple on paper. Escort the Prelton convoy through a region known for pirate activity. In reality, it was a test of the new arrangement. Could humans truly serve as guardians without becoming conquerors themselves? The elder races doubted it. The smaller species hoped for it. As the convoy began its journey, Miller studied the star chart on his main display. The region ahead had been dangerous for centuries. The pirates were actually a semi-organized force that preyed on weaker conclave members, while carefully avoiding the ships of elder races. Commander Ramirez, Miller addressed his tactical officer. Prepare a combat drill. I want all stations ready for potential hostilities. The Prelton captain, connected through a communication link, seemed nervous. Captain Miller, do you expect trouble? We could take a longer route. No need, Miller replied. We're ready for whatever comes. That's why we're here. For 3 days, the convoy traveled without incident. The crew of the Defiant maintained constant vigilance. The Vexithari observer ship followed at a distance, watching everything. On the 4th day, sensors detected multiple ships approaching from a nearby asteroid field. Pirate vessels, Winters confirmed. 7 ships heavily armed for their size. Miller remained calm. Raise shields. Inform the Prelton to tighten formation. Open a channel to the approaching ships. The main screen showed a reptilian alien with scarred scales and bared teeth. This is Drenkar of the Free Traders. Your convoy carries valuable goods through our territory. Pay our transit fee and continue safely. Miller stood. This is Captain John Miller of the Earthship Defiant. There is no transit fee. This convoy travels under our protection. You are ordered to depart immediately. The pirate leader hissed with laughter. Earthship? We've heard of your kind. Newcomers should learn their place. We have an arrangement with certain conclave members. Your interference is unwelcome. The communication ended. The pirate ships spread out, moving to surround the convoy. They're powering weapons, Ramirez reported. Miller addressed his crew. This is not a simulation. This is what we signed up for. Protect those ships at all costs, but remember, we represent humanity now. Show restraint where possible. The pirates attacked simultaneously, expecting an easy victory despite the Defiant's size. They had dealt with conclave protection before, ships that followed rigid protocols and retreated when damaged. The Defiant was different. It moved with surprising speed for its size, placing itself between the attackers and the merchant vessels. Its shields absorbed the first barrage with minimal drain. Return fire, Miller ordered. Disable their weapons and engines only. The Defiant's targeting systems were precise. 2 pirate ships lost propulsion immediately. A third spun away with damaged weapons. The remaining 4 vessels concentrated their fire on the Defiant's port side, expecting to find weakness. Instead, hidden point defense weapons activated, intercepting incoming fire. They're trying to separate us from the convoy, Winters observed. Miller nodded. Classic divide and conquer. Let them think it's working. He turned to Ramirez. Spring the trap when they commit. The tactical officer smiled. Following Captain Wright's successful strategy from the Jupiter demonstration, they had programmed their shields to appear weaker on the starboard side. When 3 pirate ships moved to exploit the apparent vulnerability, They discovered hidden weapons batteries waiting for them. Within minutes, 6 of the 7 pirate vessels were disabled. The last one turned to flee. "Captain," Winters called, "out. The Vexthari observer ship is moving. They're targeting the escaping pirate." Miller frowned. "Open a channel to the Eternal Harmony." The crystalline form of the Vexthari observer appeared on screen. "Human captain, stand aside. We will eliminate the remaining threat." "Negative," Miller replied firmly. "They've been defeated and are retreating. There's no need for destruction." "They violated Conclave law," the Vexthari stated. "The penalty is death." Miller stood straighter. "Not under our watch. This is a human operation, and we will handle it our way." For a tense moment it seemed the Vexthari might challenge them. Then the alien ship backed down. "Very well. We will observe your mercy." The way the translator rendered the last word made it sound like an insult. After securing the disabled pirate vessels for Conclave authorities, the convoy continued its journey. The Preltan captain was overjoyed. "No convoy has ever traveled this route without paying tribute or suffering losses," he told Miller. "Your reputation will spread quickly." Miller nodded. "That's the plan." In the research division of Earth Fleet Command, Dr. Bennett and Engineer Rodriguez continued their work with knowledge shared by friendly species. They had learned that what humans considered normal, their adaptability, individual initiative, capacity for self-sacrifice, were evolutionary, traits unique among known spacefaring civilizations. "We never built our ships to frighten anyone," Rodriguez said, looking over designs for the next generation of human vessels. "We built them to survive." "And that's exactly what scares them," Bennett replied. "A species that evolved alongside, death doesn't fear it the way they do. We accept it as part of existence, which makes us capable of risks they cannot comprehend." As Earth's influence grew and new alliances formed, humanity began to understand its unique place in the cosmos. They hadn't needed exotic weapons or overwhelming technology to change the balance of galactic power. All they had needed was to be human,